Hey, Bubba's. Hey all, Jason Levon, priest at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My boy Blue, who's back, and welcome to another edition of Pause and Pray. Normally Mondays are pretty chill here at the rectory. They're the day I try to take off every week and really try to have a quiet day to detach from social media and email and just recharge. That was my intent yesterday, but everything changed early in the morning. It was shortly before 7 when my wife Christy received a phone call from the assisted living facility where her mom resides, telling Christy that her mom was being taken to the hospital because she fell and couldn't move her right leg. We've since come to find out that she broke her hip in 4 places and needed surgery that she successfully had this morning. But Christy was her medical power of attorney, so instead of going off to work, Christy had to go to the emergency room and wait there for several hours with her mom. At least she was able to see her in the ER until her mom was admitted, and then COVID precautions precluded Christy from being with her mom. But she was able to talk to nurses and doctors and gain a clear understanding of where they were at and what they were going to do to try to fix my mother-in-law's broken hip. And then about 20 minutes after Christy left for work, I received a message from the family member of a beloved parish member telling me that this parish member was in the same hospital that my mother-in-law was in, suffering from a pretty significant infection that stemmed from kidney stones. Needless to say, it was a chaotic day on top of a long and chaotic week for our country, as we all well know, on top of a long and chaotic year of 2020 that we just moved through. At the end of the day yesterday, Christy, after having endured that long day much more deeply than I did with her mom, came up next to me as I was sitting in a chair doing some reading and said, "Hey, I just need to call our little Goo-Goots," which is one of the many affectionate names we've given to our 2-year-old grandson. And said, "I don't know, I just need to call him to see him at the end of a day like today." So we video called our Goo-Goots and he answered. It was shortly before 8 p.m. and he was having a snack before bed. For him that was an apple, and it had to be a whole apple because he doesn't like them cut up anymore. And when he answered the phone, immediately he did what he always does when he's video calling us. He gets all sorts of silly. And he started running around the house, giggling and laughing, showing us his dog Nala, then going down his little slide in his play area headfirst, all the while laughing hysterically, before finally blowing us kisses and saying good night to us. The phone call only lasted about 2 or 3 minutes. But in it, Christy and I both found something we couldn't have found in ourselves or from our long day or the chaotic week or this long year we moved through. And namely, that was holy refuge. In these 2 to 3 minutes, we found a holy refuge in the midst of all of the chaos swirling around us. In today's daily office, we prayed in our morning prayer Psalm 5, which begins with the psalmist talking about all of this chaos swirling around the psalmist, all of this deceitfulness and lying and treachery and arrogance. And in the midst of all of that, the psalm shifts at the end by looking not to all of that chaos, but to God in the midst of all of that chaos, serving as a refuge, a shelter, and then reflecting on all of the joy and peace that God as a refuge brings. Now, I don't know about you, but oftentimes when I turn to God, it's because I want God to take away all of the chaos that's swirling around my life. And that's at my better moments. At my not so good moments, I try to take away that chaos myself, usually in not so healthy ways, by avoiding it or just not dealing with it well. But today I'm invited, and maybe many of you are invited as well then, to pause and to pray and reflect on a God who doesn't so much come in to take away that chaos, but rather has been there all along, serving as a refuge for us in the midst of all of the chaos. In hands that reach out to hold ours when we're swimming in that chaos. Or I think of that happening in all of the people I reached out to yesterday morning on our parish prayer tree to tell them about our parishioner and my mother-in-law, and how meaningful it was to know that those two people were quickly lifted up in prayer. And yes, it was even and especially found at the end of the day, thanks to a 2-year-old snacking on an apple and being all sorts of silly while video calling with his Oma and Papa J. And we ultimately come to celebrate as we find that our true home is not in all of the chaos that will always be there, but in the peace that passes all understanding, that has always been there and longs to be a refuge for each and every one of us. God's peace and blessings to you all.